want to talk to you about these. There's credit cards that can be used to spend crypto money. Specifically, there's one, Tenx, that in July they had their IPO. It was the most exciting. It was a coin of the week one week. Price was crazy high. And one of the things that was interesting about it is that the coin, they would pay a dividend on the coin based on the amount of transactions and revenue from people using the card. So there's a lot of companies trying to get into this space using some sort of Visa, MasterCard approved card that spends crypto. And recently in the news, they were all going through this one card issuer, wavecrest, and all of a sudden wavecrest lost its license. They got shut down, and so none of these all the cards stopped working. Now, regarding the pay token, when it came out and it was coin of the week, I said, this is stupid, you shouldn't invest in it, it's way too expensive. People got mad at me because I was talking about it when everybody loved it. And that was in July. And then in November, the price was really low, way off, probably 70-80% off the highs. And then they announced they now had already 100,000 users, and I was like, okay, now maybe this makes sense. But still, they hadn't paid a dividend yet, so I said, maybe you buy a little and wait to see if you get the dividend. And I thought, you know what, maybe this thing makes sense. So now we have this announcement. So I bought a teeny bit just to at least to be able to see the dividend come through and how much it is, and and keep my eye on it. But now here we are in January, and so now instead of having 100,000 cards working, now they have 0 because they got shut down by wavecrest. And instead of getting a dividend of some kind, there's no dividend. So now it looks it looks shitty to me, right? Now, the person who runs Tenx is this guy, Julian. I love Julian. Really cool dude, does kite surfing. He was like a professional kite surfer before he got into this. Great guy, and I hope that they can be successful. But I just do not believe in this space for Tenx or for any of these cards at this point, and I'm going to tell you why. So first of all, I want to tell you, I'm a little biased here because, as you may know, I ran an e-commerce business selling sex toys on the internet over 20 years. Still own the company, actually. And I dealt with credit card companies. And let me tell you something. They're a shady bunch. I'm a little biased, okay? I mean, just to give you an idea. So I was working with a credit card company, Card Service, from when I started my business in 95 until, it must have been for at least 8 years I was working with them. I'm a great customer. My fraud rate is way below what you would need, and always a good customer. And all of a sudden they started overcharging me on batches, and I was contacting them and they weren't getting back to me. And then I finally, got somebody on the phone. I'm like, what? Here's my rates, but you're overcharging. They said, hold on. And they said, oh, you need to be off our service in 30 days. We're not doing adult anymore. Just kick me off. And honestly, them giving me 30 days was them being nice. Okay, wavecrest, if you saw what happened, there was no warning, nothing, just turned everybody off. That's how they operate. They basically, if they don't like you, they treat you like a criminal. I was treated nicely when I got the polite, you have 30 days. So then I got to search for a new credit card processor. And dealing with these companies, you want to kill yourself if you know anything about money. Here's one conversation I remember. I said, I need a credit card processor. They said, they all call me high risk. High risk because I sell sex toys. I'm like, that's not high risk. Well, you can look at my numbers and look at my fraud rate in business for how many years, and look at all the money. You can look at my profit and loss. How do you call this risky? But anyways, they said, well, how much inventory do you have? Well, actually, let me brag for a moment. I drop ship from multiple distributors, so I don't have to carry inventory. Well, that's risky. I'm like, how is that risky? You're telling me it's safer if I buy a warehouse, hire people to do shipping, and tie up money in inventory. That's going to make me less risky. They're like, well, what if you can't get the products? Like, I have multiple distributors with the same items. No matter how you look at it, my business model, I mean, not only low risk, but much more profitable, but they don't care. They have, this is how you're supposed to do business. You're supposed to have a lot of inventory. You're not doing it that way, therefore you're risky. So dealing with credit card companies, credit card processing, or anything in that industry, and I can't always blame it on them because they're so caught up in whatever regulation that they don't think intelligently or business-wise. They think, does this adhere to, I'm covering my ass, I'm trying to adhere to regulations. So that's my bias. And so that's why, first of all, when wavecrest cut off all these cards all at once, and they didn't even give them 30 days or a warning, that makes me think they're putting them in the criminal category. And I just don't believe they're like, well, wavecrest was breaking our violations. Okay, let me tell you about the regulations and breaking the violations. They got a book this big, this thick book of regulations. If they want to get rid of you, they can find a couple regulations that you're breaking. Like, they can just get rid of anyone. And not to mention, they can just get rid of you without and just say, we're not. I mean, that's what they did, card service did to me. They said, no, we just changed our regulation. We don't want adult anymore. And that's their choice. But they didn't have to be such a-holes to me. So they broke regulations. Yeah, whatever. Everybody, when I remember when PayPal came out, I was like, what the fuck is this? They're taking credit cards, putting it in, they're holding the money, and then they're sending it. I'm like, this breaks every regulation. I'm like, this thing's going to be shut down in a minute. But they knew the guy who knows the guy. I don't know how PayPal did what they did. Like I said, they must have known the guy, or they had investors who were on the inside track. I don't know how PayPal got that through. That was breaking every regulation. And then you get too big to be taken down. So I think that Visa, MasterCard doesn't want any of these companies to get too big, and then you can't take them down. So they cut them off at the knees. Now, Tenx, Julian says, when he heard this news, he was like, oh, this is good, because they've already been working on getting a new credit card issuer. And now nobody has cards, and they're so close. He says in the first quarter, they're going to have a credit card issuer. And then they're going to be like the only one. And that's great, and I hope it works. I really do. I'd be so happy for Julian, for Tenx, and then maybe I would go back and buy a little more of that pay token. But here's another thing I remember dealing with credit card companies, and I don't know why this was the case. It was so annoying. I say to them, so I want to get a merchant. Now, granted, I'm getting a merchant account. That's different from getting a card issuer. But I think it's a similar sort of vibe. I would say to them, hey, I want to get a merchant account. Oh, fabulous. You're perfect. We want you. You're the greatest. Send us all these documents. Great. We love you. Okay, it's going to take a month for us to get you the answer, but everything looks fabulous. It's perfect. Hey, we need this information too. Oh, can you give us this information? Oh my God, everything's perfect. We love you. And then, you're going to find out in 2 days. 2 days, we're going to know. It's definitely going through. It's definitely, oh my God, you're perfect. Oh yeah, we can't wait. And then all of a sudden I get an email. Sorry, you're not accepted. Like, what? And then if you talk, well, why wasn't I accepted? Oh, we don't do online businesses. I'm like, that was like the first conversation we had. I told you I'm an online business. Why did we go through this? Oh, sorry, I didn't know. Like, I'm telling you, the credit card processing industry, it's crazy. So, with Julian is having these meetings, Tenx is having meetings with the card issuer, everything's great, they're going to launch soon, they're just trying to dot the I's and cross the T's, and it's all coming through. And then, you know what, I wouldn't be surprised if he suddenly gets a phone call, and they just say, oh, you know what, it's not going to happen. And he'll be like, why? It's just, we decided it's not for us. That's it. Sorry, you worked on it for 6 months, and we told you it's definitely coming through, but we just decided to forget it. I wouldn't be surprised. So I don't want to invest in this thing until they are approved and signing up cards. Now, the other thing, when I looked at the pay token, to me when they lose this license and then they don't have a new one yet from anyone to issue cards, and their whole business is cards, and the price of the pay token didn't go down really. I mean, it might have been off a little bit, but not down. So I'm like, I'm getting out of this thing. And then another thing, I as I like to say, everybody wants to think, can this go to the moon, baby Lambos? I'm always saying, can this go to zero? I don't like things that go to zero. So when I wanted to sell, so now I'm like, okay, I'm going to get rid of this 10X. So, and by the way, for those of you who watch, when I mention my dream portfolio, I don't mention that. I have a couple things where I own a tiny, tiny bit, and it's just so I can keep my eye on it and learn. It's not any amount of money that would affect my portfolio, so I don't even count it when I tell you my portfolio. Sort of my experiment, fun. I don't know that it's fun, but I'm working. Sorry, the sun is moving. I gotta move here. Just a little bit. Okay. So anyway, so I'm like, now I want to sell. So Bittrex trades pay token. Loading address of what's the address I can send my pay token to Bittrex. Doesn't load an address. I can't seem to send it to Bittrex. I send a support to Bittrex. It's been 3 or 4 days. They haven't responded. I'm like, how the hell am I going to sell this thing? Then I found, this Ether Delta, I had to figure out how to use that. It was good education. It was interesting. Now that I know how to use it, it's an interesting platform if you want to just trade Ethereum tokens, especially some random token. But volume is not big. I could only it was hard to sell. And now they have this business model that this thing could go to zero. And it just reminded me of, let's, be careful out there. We're all confident everything's going up and you got these coins all over the place. 10X could easily go to zero. And it reminded me of the risks we are playing. What else did I want to talk about? Oh, yes, and also important, another thing about this thing, and yet, even if 10X, if they got approved and they were growing really fast, maybe, but my concern is, I like the long term. I like at least a 5-year story, right? I just want to be if I can be right for 5 years and hold it, that's good money. Where you make the huge money, where you make Warren Buffett money, is when you're right and you hold it for 30 years. But 5 will be fine. I don't need to be Warren Buffett. But what is the future people carrying around plastic cards with magnetic strips? Is that where the industry's going? I don't think so. That's where we're leaving. Where it's going is there will be some app that's so fucking easy, pardon my French, so easy for the merchant to download some app that now they can accept money, easy for the consumer to download an app, a wallet that connects to somewhere that's safe somehow, and you're zapping with your phone, and the merchant is just using a phone or a computer. Like, that's where it's going. It's not these credit cards and plastic with magnetic strips. Now, in the short run, it is, and if Visa and MasterCard allowed it, it probably could be huge, at least for a while. But I don't think they're going to allow it, and even if they do, I don't know that it will last for 5 years. So I'm kind of down on that whole. Now, I love if there was a credit card that could spend crypto, although I don't really want to spend my crypto, but it would be cool. I would get one. I think it's great. I'm not against using them, and if they existed, I would use it, and I think people, if you have a lot of crypto, that could be a cool thing to do. But as far as investing in these companies, not seeing it, not feeling it. So I think that's all I wanted to say. And that's it. And by the way, like I said, I love 10X. I love Julian. I hope them the best of success. Just, I'm a little scared to invest. All right? Good luck to you all.